time I didn't get it. I was just like, so that's like a... Did you see that?
The earring's down! The earring went down! Oh no! One call paramedic, let's go!
Mercury, Stardust. She's a beacon of hope in the darkest night. Mercury, Stardust. She'll teach you how to make it all alright.
Okay, bitch. I see you.
Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals, thank you so much for coming into this episode of Maintenance is Drag. As always, I am Mercury Stardust, the trans handyman, and I am joined today by my wonderful special guest, an internationally traveling drag performer known as a dyke on the mic. Everyone put your hands together for Fay Ludes! Fay, you look fantastic. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you. I'm good. Hello from Oklahoma, because, I am in states I never thought I would ever visit. But you know what?
Boy.
If the booking fee is paid, I'm on my way.
Oh boy, I feel that. I feel it so much. When we did the book tour last year, it was very similar. I gotta tell you, for us, Boise, Idaho is on site. Well, like we would just punch Boise if we had a chance. If you live in Idaho, I love you. I'm sorry.
Funny you say that. Last year, I did Pride in Pocatello, Idaho, which is, I think, like an hour and a half. And a man with an AR-15 showed up to protest in full camo and had to be escorted off the premises. And I got asked to come back this year, and I'm like,
that wow. Yeah, we took it to 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds. We are here to fix handy things and to help people out with their homes, but we're also here to have a good old time with wonderful drag performers. And Fay, how did you get started in drag? How long have you been doing this for, friend?
So I'm about to hit 6 years. People are surprised. I'm 43 years old, so they just assume I've been doing it for 800 years. But I'm a late bloomer. I have been my whole life. So I started drag at 36. And luckily, within a year, the Hamburger Mary Chicago fell in love with me. And I got to go full time really quickly. And I'm just someone who hustles. So about 6 years now. But I've also, gone all over the damn world doing drag because I'm a crazy one. I like to see the world.
I would definitely say that one of the words to describe you is absolutely crazy. As a friend,
I'm definitely I'm the spinster auntie who never had kids with like 8 cats and shit. Like I'm very that. I live in an RV,
What is your feelings about maintenance? Like, what's your experience with maintenance?
I mean, obviously, we all hate when a maintenance person just bursts into our apartment unannounced and tries to fix something. I've had a few interesting moments. I've been a renter since I was 18 years old. I'm 43 now. You do the math. And it wasn't something that I can fix certain things. My mother is a very handy woman. And I would say that I haven't done a ton of maintenance until 4 years ago. I purchased this 1991 Toyota RV, and my God, did these bitches need maintenance?
You gotta become like an expert with one of those.
Yeah, I said, I guess I have to live up to my tough dyke exterior because there's a lot of broken shit here I gotta fix.
You gotta really own the stereotype. You gotta be like, oh no, I got this.
Yeah, I'm not just the lesbian that lives in an RV. I can also fix it.
What is your knowledge about things like knockdown popcorn ceiling?
Well, I definitely know about popcorn ceiling.
Ooh.
My grandfather owned an apartment complex when I was a kid. And one of my odd jobs I would do is repainting and refinishing.
Whoa.
I can paint a room like a motherfucker.
Yeah, Fay.
I hate the tape though. I usually try to make someone else do the taping because I don't have the focus nor the
Oh,
preciseness. So
ta-
if I'm left to my own
taping.
devices, like don't look too close in this RV.
Taping is an art form. It is such a hard thing to genuinely do good, and trying to
Yeah.
show people how actually important it is to tape off properly is so difficult. If you're just doing your home, like you can be a little bit like you are the one making those mistakes is a little different, But when you're a professional and you're trying to teach someone and they got to do it like perfect, it is very hard to be like, no,
And let's
no,
be
no.
honest, these walls are fucking wavy gravy.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely. And if you don't get it cleaned prior and make sure all the dust is gone, it will never properly stick. I'm a big frog tape girl. I love frog tape. I think that is the superior of all
Ah,
painters tape. So if you're watching this and you want to paint something, get frog tape. You
frog
pay
tape.
you pay for what you get, right? Like with
Yeah.
that kind of tape especially. There's techniques that you can have that you don't need to use tape, but man, even the professional painters I knew most of the time had
Yeah.
some intern or someone
Something.
working on staff who would just tape everything off while they painted the whole time. So
Ugh.
okay.
Someone taped my last house I lived in, and I was fucking thrilled. It was my friend's boyfriend. He literally went, "Go tape the walls," and he did it.
That's something.
Yeah, I was like,
Okay,
"Where do I get one of those?" Damn.
are you ready for the first call, Faye?
I am. I'm ready to show people how unhinged I am and give bad
Yes, I
advice.
think they already know.
Well, you give the good advice
You're
because
one of my good friends, and when I have my good friends in this show, the show gets instantly crazier.
oh, I love
I'm on my
that.
best behavior when I have people come on who I don't know.
But if you have
Okay.
someone like me or Dee Dee, forget about it.
Oh yeah. No, Dee Dee Purr and I instantly talked about butts like right away.
That's my babe. Shout out to Dee Dee Purr. I love her so much. She is, when I lived in Milwaukee, the queen I booked the most.
Whoa! Little trivia for everybody who's living
And
in
I'm not someone
Wisconsin.
who rebooks people a ton, but Dee Dee Purr is one talented, hilarious diva.
Entertainer of the year in Wisconsin, by the way.
Duh.
Yeah. Okay, let's roll that voicemail.
Hi, Mercury. My name's Tina. My pronouns are she, her. I have a textured ceiling in my house and I sprayed it with water so I could scrape it all off. Turns out it's not paint. It is hard like concrete. I'm assuming maybe they use joint compound or use joint compound and paint, but it's hard as a rock. I am terrified I'm going to either have to sand all the ceilings in my house or put a layer of more compound over it to smooth it. And I was hoping maybe you might have some ideas or suggestions other than that. I really don't want to do either, but I need this ugly textured ceiling gone. If you can help, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, before we show the image of what this looks like, I want to have a warning of anyone who hates weird textures. I saw this photo and I was like, I hate it. I hate it. It's a rough
Normally, I
one.
don't mind a popcorn ceiling, but now I'm a little scared.
Oh, it is. This is an intense one. I had to have a friend help me with this one and know what exactly this is. So we're going to throw this on your screen in a second here. And that's what we're looking at. Yeah, that is a different kind of popcorn ceiling. That's called knockdown popcorn ceiling. Okay. So popcorn ceiling is also called acoustic ceiling for those who don't know. So it's all about the idea is to basically try to make it sound less noisy. So this was really popular in apartments back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but since then it's really gone out of favor. So I think I can help them. Do you think you can help them?
I can't fucking help them. But my question is it bad to have a popcorn ceiling? Because I kind of like them.
Do you?
Are they full of asbestos or something? Like, what's the tea?
Yeah. Well, Faye, yeah, they are. They are. I love that you went right into the next point, Faye. Are they full of asbestos? Yes, they are. No.
Yeah, I grew up in California where there were commercials that your ceiling had asbestos. If you've been affected by asbestos, like all the time. Like I'd sit with my Nana, she'd watch her soaps, and I'd hear like, asbestos was going to kill your ass. So that's why I'm asking.
No, they can. Now, not all of them do, and we're gonna get into
Okay.
that probably in a second. I'm gonna tell that all to Tina when we give her a call. So let's give her a call and
Yeah.
check in. Tina, I gotta tell you some things. First, right out of the gate, I saw this texture and I wanted to vomit. I hated it. I hate it. I have a very good friend on TikTok, and their name is Melissa, and they have written a book. We're gonna put that on a screen right now. And this book is wonderful, fantastic. They're known as Laundry Talk on TikTok. They're one of my favorite lesbian accounts. If you do not follow, you need to follow. And if you don't know how to fold laundry in a seductive way, you're doing it wrong, is all I'm saying. But that being said,
Fold laundry.
yeah, fold. Actually,
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, I do
say,
have
like,
clean. I just have a bin of clean laundry I never put away. I just keep putting stuff in there. That's how I live my life, on the edge.
clean pile.
All that being said, Melissa told me that when she took a look at this, she thought it was knocked down popcorn ceiling. And that means a few things. A, that's a specific kind of popcorn ceiling, but it is possible to take it down. Now, why is it so stiff? Why is it so hard? It could be for a bunch of reasons. It could be because oil was maybe mixed with the paint, like maybe they used oil-based paint, and that would make it a lot harder to take off. There's a few things you should do before you take down the popcorn ceiling. One, make sure you test it for asbestos, because as I just told Fay, asbestos is in popcorn ceiling.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes. And I would say that if this is as hard as you're talking about, typically what we say with popcorn ceiling is a putty knife with a vacuum attached to it that you wrap around in duct tape. And then when you're scraping it, then you can suck it up all at one time. So you're not getting as much debris everywhere. But in this case, I think we're kind of past that. I think you need to go even farther. So I want to just say this right out of the gate. It's okay. You're going to be good. You may need a little bit of help though. Because what I'm going to suggest is a sander on a pole. So they make big sanders that can be hoisted up, and they kind of use like a suction system to stay up above you. So it seems like it's going to be kind of impossible, but it's not as bad as it actually looks. And it is possible to do it. Okay. If you want to take it down yourself, that is kind of what you might want to do. I would start in a room that is the easiest to move around, but not too crazy big, right? I would make sure everything is out of the room, right? Usually in this instance, you would say just wrap everything in plastic. I don't know. I think you need to go farther than that. I think you need to remove everything. You're going to have so much debris in there. And then probably get one of those like plastic doors that you can put in your doorway and then zip up so you're not going to get all the debris in the rest of your house. You know what I'm talking about, Faye? You just gave me a look, Faye.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I was
Yeah,
like, wait,
you can get it for like $20. There's just like
that makes sense.
a little plastic thing that goes right on your door, and then you can just zip it up, and then you can zip it down when you got to go in and out. It's kind of feeling like you're in a biodome, to be honest. Yeah. One of the things about my job that I've learned to like hate a lot is telling people bad news, but trying to also remind them that like you can do it on your terms, right? Like there's a lot of different routes you can go. If this is physically too taxing, then this is like you need to hire out and get help. If that's too costly, well then mutual aid is always an option, and there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help people even if they don't know you. And I know that's for a fact because every single time I go to some stranger's house and help them how to fix stuff, hundreds of people comment, hey, I'll be there too. So things can happen, miraculous things can happen, but also just know that you can start small. You can start small and just see what happens. Like even if you don't want to rent a pole sander, right? And you just want to get like an orbiter sander, you can go in a ladder and just see how it would work a little bit and just start small and then work yourself up to something that's going to be a lot more effective. You know what I mean?
Maybe there's a closet that has the textured ceiling that she could just test out on or something, you know?
Yeah, a closet
Sounds
wouldn't
like
be
it'd be
bad. If you have a larger closet you can, like, fit in, that might not be a bad idea. When people call me with questions like this, I know they care so much about their home. And they're really good homeowners. And I just wanna remind you, you're a really good homeowner, okay? You're not Please do not think that you have failed in any way. You have not done anything wrong, okay? You are doing the best you can, and you're hanging in there, and I think you're doing a pretty damn good job. Now, go beat up that knockdown ceiling. I'll just give you a Rocky pep talk, and I want you to just knock it out. Okay? This job can be so frustrating because
Yeah,
there should be more government aid for people. There should be more help,
yeah,
especially with
yeah.
knockdown ceiling. Even if it's in the 80s, it could still have a specialist in it. Now there are government programs that do help you with this, but they're not
Okay,
really well funded.
that's not a surprise.
You can get
Yeah.
pretty affordable asbestos at-home test kits. You just go up there, make sure you wear a respirator,
Okay, yeah,
no one else is around, and you
yeah,
just chip away at it a little bit, put it in a little thing they give you with a test kit,
okay.
and then you send it in, and then the lab will call you and tell you if it has asbestos or not.
Oh,
It costs us like 40 or $50. I think you can get one for about like 35 or 40 on Amazon actually.
okay.
But like
A little
it's
pricey, but
not
I think
terrible.
local government should be sending those out for free.
I I agree, and I think there are some programs, but again, it's so hard for me to give advice to people on that
Yeah,
because it is so different from every single state, and I would have to know
absolutely.
every single law, every single guideline to be able to
Yeah,
do that. It's very frustrating.
yeah. I'm just glad I don't have a popcorn ceiling. Although I do have a leak in my roof right now, so I think I'd rather have a popcorn ceiling. Honestly, I've been chasing this thing for way too long.
How would you describe your drag, my friend?
How would I describe my drag? I would say that I'm a very high energy, dumb bitch who does a lot of looks that are very 60s, 70s, retro, that type stuff. But definitely high energy, even at 43, you're still getting the high kicks, the splits. I jumped off a stage this week like I had a life to spare. So, just like chaos, like one thing, being someone who is not a man doing drag, you do have some issues sometimes. But for me, I know if I can get my ass in that door, they're gonna book me again. They're gonna be happy with what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like I know my way around a stage. I've been annoying since I was born.
I love it. But also, you are one of the best performers I had the pleasure of working with for my weekly show
Thank
back in the
you.
day. And it's so
And
nice to
you
see you
saw me
doing
when I
so.
was faster too. I was probably like 40 when you booked me. So you probably a little speedier than
Well,
I am these days.
I saw you pre-pandemic days. So like
Oh,
2018, 2019.
so I was a baby queen, really,
You
because I
were.
was pretty new. I remember being excited. I want to say you booked me at 5 for the first time.
I think that might be true. Also, that
I
seems to
think
be a
so
thing
too.
that's very common. I do miss the days when I would go
Yeah,
out and watch shows and I would talk to
yeah,
people and I would learn who's new in a community and I would book
yeah.
them almost immediately because I was obsessed
Yep,
with
I came from
finding new
Chicago
people.
happily.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah,
finding people who weren't the atypical person you would see at a show. I loved it,
yeah. That was
working.
me too.
Yeah,
I was
it was so
producing
fun.
at This Is It at Trixie Mattel's bar. I was doing Saturdays, and the local girlies were getting a little pressed that I wasn't booking more of them. But I'm just like, I don't want to cast the same show that people can see any weekend here. Like, no shade to anyone. I want to bring my friends from all over the place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, as a person who is different in the industry, you know what it's like to be different in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanna hold the door open, not close it behind us, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And you know what? I don't want to always be the only AFAB person in the show. Like, let's speak on it for a moment. I think we have a real problem in drag, and people aren't, I don't know if it's an intentional thing, but all of my king friends, my AFAB queen friends, we don't ever get to work together. So I don't know what this is about one vagina per show, but they need to get it together. Like, we want to work together. We want to be with people who have similar experiences we do as entertainers. So yeah, I was always making sure that most people in the audience saw some form of representation on the stage, something that, you know, they could connect with.
Speaking of that, a lot of people at home who are watching this may not know that AFAB drag queens are a thing. That might be, but a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't know that drag kings were a thing, and that still blows my mind. So, like, were there inspirations for you, and how would you describe if there's any difference for you?
So it was interesting, right? Like, I had seen a very legendary AFAB queen, Phonique, from San Francisco. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I remember seeing her at the Stud in my 20s at some point. And I'll be honest, at the time I didn't get it. I was just like, so that's like a. Did you see that?
The earring's down! The earring went down! Oh no! One call paramedic, let's go! Save the outfit.
Keep it in. We'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Your fit's so good. Your fit's so good.
Thank you. Oh. This was actually made by someone who was on Next in Fashion.
Ooh, I've never heard of that show.
It's on Netflix. Oh shit. Or is it on? I don't know what it's on.
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't watch TV. I watch the same 10 episodes of Community all the time, and that's it.
I'm not a TV or a movie person, and people get really offended. I am a music person, hands down. I've been a DJ. I've sang in bands, like all these things. And I still haven't seen Titanic, and I haven't seen Star Wars. I don't give a fuck. I'm not interested. And people are like, oh, I'm like, no, I'm on Planet Fay, and Planet Fay doesn't include that movie, and I'm not too worried about it because no skin off my back. I'm just gonna keep it pushing.
Okay, before that, your earring rudely interrupted this great conversation.
Yeah. Witnessed homophobia in action.
We
right
did. It was honestly quite startling. So that being said, what was it like for you? Yeah.
So I was really lucky that I started drag in Chicago. One thing about Chicago is gender does not matter. If you're a talented entertainer and you're bringing something interesting, you will get booked. So it really wasn't until I started getting out in the world, I started traveling, I moved to Wisconsin for a bit, that I started experiencing pretty terrible misogyny. I guess I went in kind of naive because, like I said, I came up in Chicago. I grew up in San Francisco where there was all genders always doing drag. So it really wasn't until I got out there. You know, I currently live in an RV and I tour all over Northern America and perform in clubs. And the first time I did it, and it still happens now, I did a show last week and I said, did you guys know when you booked me, I'm not a man? And they were like, we were just talking about it. We had no clue. And I'm like, because it's not your business. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to know.
Yeah.
So mainly I've had a lot of success. I've done really well. You know, like I said, I worked for Trixie Mattel, and that opens enough fucking doors for you. Not to be like a full name dropper, but I'm so grateful that was able to open so many doors for me that might not be open just because of my genitalia, which is real weird. Are we good? Sorry, you guys disappeared on my screen.
Hey, everybody, the next call is a very special one. This is another technician, another contractor who's doing their job, and they are a lady. Woo! But in this industry, it's tough. It's tough when you're working with your friends, you're trying to do right by people, and they're having some issues. So we're going to give them a call and talk shop, and you're going to get to hear what it's like for two technicians, contractors to talk shop and how it's like for us. So let's go! Hey there, hi Angie, how's it going?
Hey, Mercury, I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. You called me a few days back and you asked me for help, contractor to contractor. And I just wanted to check in with you and see how you're at and like tell me what you're feeling right now, friend.
Yeah, well, I'm just feeling pretty nervous and just confused and disappointed about a situation with my friend.
Yeah.
So as a contractor, especially a lady contractor, I go out of my way to, really take care of my clients, especially people I know personally. And I just felt like I got a 180 on this one, and it's been really overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be really hard when you're doing contract work with people especially your friends, and then something unexpected happened. I think in your instance, what the unexpected thing was you were caulking a tub, right? And then you found a lot of mold, and then it became like a mold mediation, which is a living nightmare, and very costly, right? Is that what happened?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, so I just went over to do this small bathroom repair job, and I noticed that the water heater in the other room was leaking significantly into the pan.
Ooh.
And there's a contractor, no, that's not a good thing.
No,
So this
it's
was
bad.
just a
Yeah,
looking out for my friend call,
yeah. That's
So,
that's what's so
but yeah,
hard.
the water
The
had gotten into the subfloor and just become a nightmare.
the thing that's really rough about being a contractor or being a technician work and doing work for people you really care about is then being the bearer of bad news. And being a bearer of bad news is difficult. And I think a lot of times us as technicians, especially people who are not cis men, I think that like we are sometimes more equipped emotionally to be able to distill that information in a way that is going to soften the blow. But I also think what happens is because we get close to our people, we care about them. We do this work because we want to care about the people, the queer, the trans, the femme, people who are often forgotten about in this industry. Um, we end up
Yes.
like people really think we're going to be miracle workers, and people really think they're just fine and everything is fine. But sometimes things are out of our, they're just out of our purview. They're just out of our ability to be able to do, or there is no way to do it that won't cost a lot of money. And those are really hard things to hear sometimes. You know what I mean, Angie?
Oh, very much so. So well.
Yeah. How is your relationship with her right now?
Um, I sent my first invoice and she paid it, and we haven't talked since. There I have probably
What?
2/3 more of the work
Yeah.
to bill for, but yeah, I have not been motivated to check
Is
in
the
and do
job
anything
done?
else. Thankfully, yes.
So the job is done or not? Okay. Yeah, that's good. How long did the job take?
Oh gosh. Um, like a month and a half with everything that we found. So I ended up really becoming
Yeah.
the general contractor because she's out of town, and she trusted me or trusts me. I'm not
Ooh.
sure which, but I needed to be the person on the ground vetting these other, asbestos and mold remediation
Yeah.
contractors and taking pictures and trying to convey as much information as I could and give her my input on who
It's
was.
so much work.
It's, oh my gosh, yeah.
Being the point Yeah, being a point person for mold mediation is one of the most difficult things we'll ever have to do as a general contractor. It is hard because, like, A, you're juggling a lot of hats. You're trying to get people in, you're trying to get people out. There's always someone coming in, but then also the equipment you need, right? It's just like there's so much unforeseen, and every mold restoration is different. Every single one. You could have done 100 of these, and they're all going to be slightly different because of how mold reacts, right? So you could have
Yeah.
ones that are so far down the wall, and it could be so difficult to get everything, and you really do got to get everything. You really do have to get everything. And it's
Yeah.
it's so difficult. So my thought process is here. How long has this friendship been in your life? And how do you feel about this?
Well, we've known each other for, gosh, I'd say like 3 years now, and we're in a small town. So, we have lots of mutuals and, see each other, get togethers and social events, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah,
it's,
and I'm guessing you care about her a lot.
oh my gosh. Well, yeah. And the
Yeah.
hardest thing about all of this is I know how much she's going through, and just she was going through a lot personally. Like, this was the worst timing. She absolutely did not need this. So, I understand why she's been reacting really intensely, but I also am confused why the person who's been the most supportive is the point person for all this frustration.
Yeah. It is hard. It's hard to be a friend and also be someone who has to charge a bill. That is just a
Yeah.
hard reality. And I'm not of the mindset. I firmly am against this whole don't do work for your friends. I think that's bullshit. I really do. I think that when we go into these things and we go into these spaces, when we do this work for our friends, we need to really have a clear understanding. I contracts scare people, but I think even just having like a list of like, this is what's going to happen. These are the things that we could maybe encounter. God forbid, these are the things that we might encounter. And if they do, it will cost a lot of money. And I think sometimes when we lay those things out as friends first, that can insulate us from bad things happening, right? Because now she might be feeling like, oh, this came out of the blue. Why did this come out of the blue? Does she really have to do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's all these questions. And then you mentioned the receipts to me in your original voicemail. And I think that's something really important to talk about,
Yes.
because we as
Yeah.
contractors do not buy things individually for per job. We buy in wholesale, and we buy to keep it in their inventory. So what happens a lot, people will be like, oh, I need a receipt for that. Well, you can get a list of all the things I used and an estimated cost, but that's not really how that works for most of us, and that's really
Exactly.
difficult. Like, I could go to Menards, or I could go to Home Depot, and I could get all the things I got and then charge you. You know what I mean? But that would be the best I could do from that, and it would cost you more too. So, like,
Right.
it's hard. It's difficult to explain that to people who may not fully understand how our businesses actually have to run to be able to turn a profit. And I think that's hard. I just want to sympathize with you so much, Angie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. Conveying like all these like ins and outs of how things work has been so, yeah, it's just confusing.
It
Like,
is.
I've never had to deal with it before, but for somebody who is completely
Yeah.
new to this, then yeah, it's really a lot.
And and I'm not someone who thinks people think they should get special treatment. I don't think that. I think what happens sometimes is friends think they're in safe hands, and their armory, the armor that they wear when they have these conversations with contractors, goes away. And I think they don't prepare themselves to find out for the worst. And I think that's our job as contractors and friends, to prepare them for the worst. I really do. And I I'm a big proponent of like mutual aid and helping people where they're at and being able to do trade. But if that's not how it is when you start the job, it's really hard to implement that later on, right? Because of like, we got to pay our bills, and we got to pay rent, and we got to do these things.
Yeah.
We can't just like mid job decide, oh, you know what? I'm going to trade you. You can dye my hair, and then I will, do this job, and you'll dye my hair 3 or 4 times, right? Which
Right.
what I've done. I've done those things before, right? I've traded goods with people, and that's cool. But that's got to be like something you decide ahead of time. And I think that sometimes takes the blow off of that stuff too. And might help in the future if you ever work with your friends, or anyone who's listening to this or watching this. If you're a contractor and you do work like this, maybe that's something we think about, is how we can prepare our friends dash client to feel a little bit less like the possibility of all the wheels coming off at the same time.
Right. And that's a fine line to walk too.
It is.
If you're just going into like
It is.
caulk somebody's bathtub, don't want to like give them the like, so something really terrible could happen if I take on this really small job. but there does have to be some sort of like out if that situation does get weird.
Yeah, it is. That is, you're not wrong, because like this is the thing that's so frustrating, is that I am someone who would always do a really good job, and if I saw mold, I would do exactly the same thing you did. I would do 100%, because that's what you do, right? Like, I always tell people that we don't take oaths as technicians, but if we did, it would always be, for me, is to put the property. The property is an extension of the client, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I want to make sure that client, for however long they're in that property, they're safe and protected. And when I am taking the responsibility of going into that house, going into that space, I'm also taking in the responsibility that I am now the person, I'm the doctor of this house. And it's my job to make sure I can get this house through that, you know? And sometimes when a problem like this happens, it's like, boy, that's something that comes out of nowhere that would have been really hard to have foreseen. But I do think having those discussions ahead of time, even if it's vaguely, be like, hey, sometimes when we go and do these small jobs, things do pop up. Do you want me to pursue something if it pops up? Or do you want me to just ignore it and act like it never happened? Because you could also choose to do that, right, Angie? We could. Do we want to? Not really.
No, I don't want to leave people with
Um,
mold in their house and wet subfloor. No.
and that's the thing. I guess what I'm asking, did she say, did you call her up when it happened, and were you like, hey, this happened, this is what we're gonna need to do, kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I had seen the water heater
Yeah.
and then, waited a few weeks, and the folks living in the house were like, "Hey, can you nudge your friend? We still haven't had a plumber over here." And then I called again and was like, "Hey, this is really important. This is important for you and the home and anybody living in here. This can get bad fast." And unfortunately, I was right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You probably caught it before it got really bad. You probably did.
I mean, the water heater could have fallen through the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. I mean, this sounds like this was one heck of a mole job.
Oh my gosh, we had to
So
gut the
Angie, I
entire
just
back room.
you had to gut the entire back room?
Yeah, well,
Ugh.
the water heater
Yikes.
was in
And
a separate
what
room from the bathroom, and that was what flooded, and we had to
what
pull everything, and there was asbestos in the floor, and,
gut
on and on.
yeah, gutting those rooms are always hard. They're hard to do anything in those rooms because they're never necessarily built in a way that makes it easy for us to do our job.
Correct.
Were there any other rooms like affected? Was it a bathroom and then more?
No, thankfully it was just the back room. The bathroom was just really,
God.
it's on a separate part of the house. That was just an aside. But when I went to turn off the water at the water heater to work on the faucet, then
No.
I saw, oh my gosh, what is going on here? and that's what started this whole other project.
Contractor to contractor, I'm really proud of you, Angie. I really
Oh,
am. You made a really tough call, and you did a really tough thing, and you hung in there. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. And I think that there's not a lot of contractors who would put themselves in that position knowing that you might have bad fallout. And you did it because it was the right thing to do. And I'm proud of you for doing that and standing by your values as a technician, because that's important too. And a lot of times, I am a crusader for the client. I always will be. I care deeply about making sure that they feel safe and that they don't feel like they're getting jerked around. But a lot of the things we do are costly, and a lot of the things that we do does require a lot of skill, and it does mean we have to get paid equitably for it. And that's difficult. And I know that isn't what people want to hear, but that is a part of this, and we need to take care of ourselves too.
yeah.
And I don't know. I think you did a wonderful job, and making sure that everything goes out is such a good idea. And I do know I've ran into contractors that have done mediation, but then have not done it completely. almost as if they're like, well, I'm going to come back in 6 years and this is going to be great for me. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It's wild that sometimes that people just don't have that care for their client. And I think that you did in spite of all of it.
Very much so. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
It feels really good for somebody who has the same attitude and care for people and understands why this is important to validate that.
Yeah.
I've been feeling like
I think
I just got myself in too deep and I should have walked, and but I couldn't sleep if I did that.
I'm so proud of you for not walking. Because that it would have been easier is from a friendship point of view, but the only person who would have made sure that that was done properly and done with care is someone who actually also cared about her, and you did the right thing. And I think that that says a lot. And maybe someday she'll see that. Maybe someday she'll see fully how impactful that moment really was. And if you ever talk to her again, and maybe that won't happen, but if it does, if there's an opportunity to share what could have happened and how important it was to get that job done, and would you rather have had that done by a stranger, or would you rather have someone do that who you know and you trust, right? And it really does come to our integrity. Our trusting us is a big deal of who we are, right? Like, I consider myself a very ethical based contractor that cares deeply about not just doing the good job, but making sure I do good by my client. I care a lot about making sure that I protect my client in a lot of ways. And I know you do too. And then when someone says something that makes me feel like, oh no, they don't actually think I'm doing those things. They actually think the worst of me. That it's hard for me not to have a defensive stance immediately. That's a hard thing to accuse someone of, but understand that we are presenting them with a very unexpected bill sometimes. And that's just hard. So, oh, Angie, I'm no, it was just what a wonderful call. Thank you for asking this stuff and calling us and sharing this story with us.
Well, thank you so much for your support. Talk to another technician who gets it is really heartening. It makes me feel good and feel seen.
I wish there was more of us. There's growing more of us, right? There's more and more of us, like compassionate, compassionate, leaning, caring technicians out there. There's a lot more of us than there used to be. But there's still not enough of us. And I just want you to know you should stay in this industry because I think you're cut out for it. And I think that there needs to be more of us in this industry who do these things like this. And hopefully one day we won't be the rarity. We'll be the standard is what my hope is. So Angie, thank you so much for the wonderful call. And I hope you sleep well tonight. And I hope that you feel a little bit lighter after this conversation. Okay.
So much better. Thank you so much, Mercury. I so appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you. Okay, you're gonna make me cry, Angie.
You're making me cry. You're the best.
Yes, you're the best.
No, you're the best.
Oh, I gotta tell you, there's nothing like talking to contractors, especially contractors who get it. And it's just been so nice. So thank you so much. And you call me back if there's any updates, okay?
All right, will do. Thank you again, Mercury.
Take care, Angie. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. My heart. Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart is broken. What an absolutely amazing, sweet person. This is a note to everyone who's watching. Contractors are human beings who do make mistakes, who do sometimes overcharge, who do times mess things up. We're not perfect. We're just not. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. But when you're hiring a friend, you need to also, as a client, go into this remembering that this is also a business that you're partaking in, right? And it's really important for us to have some type of communication. And I think this is on the contractor to lay this stuff out. But I also think it's not bad for the client to be able to be like, okay, hey, I really love you. This is my home. This is what I'm expecting. And I don't want any other unexpected things. And if anything is unexpected, we might need to revisit maybe a few months down the road or something. You know what I mean? But if it's something like mold, being a contractor and being like, you might need to do that right now. I think those things are important.
Shh! I've got a real treat for you, handyman hotline callers. Today, we are examining a very rare and reclusive creature, endangered almost to the point of extinction here in the United States. Accurate numbers are hard to find, but we estimate between only 16 and 30 of these beauties are left in the wild, thanks to environmental changes like gentrification. That's right. Today, we're talking about lesbian bars. When people talk about the acronym of LGBT, a more accurate way of pronouncing it seems to be G B T. The collective of the gays, or the umbrella term of queer, tends to be how the collective is referred to, but you may have noticed that the L has gone rather silent. Look, game recognizes game. There's almost a supernatural quality to how lesbians can recognize one another in the wild, but the rest of the community has a tendency to overlook our sapphic sisters. Historically, women have had a rough go of it when it comes to being allowed to do something so salacious as drink in public. But just like how it backfired with everything else, prohibition in the United States helped usher women not just into being allowed to drink, but also in running their own establishments. Elsa Conrad is going to get her own segment sometime in the future, but she owned a prominent lesbian establishment in Berlin until the Nazis came to ruin it, just like how they ruined everything else. Mona's 440 Club is seen as the first lesbian bar in the US, and its doors opened in 1936. More clubs opened through the 40s and 50s, even as homophobia started ramping up. Often a target for the police, probably because they saw women as easier targets than men, clearly they had yet to encounter a lesbian softball team. Officers would harass lesbian clubs on a regular basis, almost nightly in some areas like San Francisco. This led to a number of successful lesbian bars being owned by men in large cities. Having a lucrative relationship with the police or the local mob helped keep your business alive and your liquor license current. But come the 80s, business was booming as feminism was on the rise. So what happened? Well, a lot of things. See, lesbian bar culture isn't just about drinking, it's about building community. Turns out the former is more helpful than the latter when it comes to keeping the lights on. Ask any of your millennial friends who used to dream about starting a co-op. Gentrification drives up rents, and bars are forced to close. As queer culture became more mainstream and acceptable, the need for lesbian-specific bars started to decline too. Why meet your Hinge/Tinder/Bumble/FetLife date at a queer-specific bar when you'll be just as accepted by your favorite bartender at the place down the street? And did you know how I said the place down the street and not the gay bar? Yeah, gay men have their own expectations of what their nightlife and clubs should look like. With their tendency to out-earn lesbian and queer folks, they sort of get a free pass to do as they please. Now, there's a place for gay bars. I spent many a night as a baby queer at my local club in Fort Wayne, looking at you after dark, sticky floors and all. But those social scenes take on a different energy than lesbian bars do. There have been multiple movements in recent years to highlight the rapid disappearance of lesbian bars, both in America and abroad. One such effort is the Lesbian Bar Project, which focuses on celebrating, supporting, and amplifying what lesbian bars are left. You can check out their website, lesbianbarproject.com. Look to see where the nearest lesbian bar near you is, and be sure to give it a visit. And remember, as the boss lady likes to say, you're worth the time it takes to learn a little history. Here's Mercury.
I am going to read this text off for you here.
Bagel bites, hi!
Howdy, Amy here from beautiful New London, Connecticut, where our motto is, it's happening. Feels equal part threat and triumph. Homeowner, they said homo.
Oh, I got it,
owner.
I got it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. For almost 6 years now, this is the first year that we have mice. I'll spare you so many details, but now my problem is that they have seemed to move into the insulation in my stove between the oven and range top. So I Googled how to disassemble said stovetop to get whatever lurks beneath. Problem is, one of the burners seems to have been over tightened, and my 5mm bolt is stripped enough where the driver won't catch. It's in a
Whoa.
weird and wildly inaccessible position. Photos to follow. But here's what I've tried: putting rubber bands across the bolt to help the driver grip. The band broke numerous times.
Yeah.
Using a product that should loosen/lubricate the bolt. No change. Locking needle nose pliers. Not enough room to grip. Cursing. No change. Using super fancy red label super glue to glue a screw on top of the bolt in hopes that then it would be able to untwist it. Couldn't get the screw to adhere.
Oh no.
I feel terribly that I cannot simply remove a bolt from an appliance I own/operate every day. I feel set up by whoever designed this stove to be so inaccessible. I don't want to have to call a professional just so little old me can have someone remove a bolt. Help?
Oh God, that's killing me. It's killing me. Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Well, you got a problem. You got a problem, huh? Wow. So hey, how long?
I'm doing great in face of diversity.
Yeah, you sound like you're doing really good. You sound like you're a real tripper. And I gotta tell you, I don't know if I would be. This would drive me nuts too. But hey, there's a few things to know right away. Ovens are just a pain in the butt to work with sometimes. Especially if they're like a different make and model, like when you're not. Oh, so some of these make and models will have different ways that this part will come undone. Some are just clips and hooks and stuff, and it's a lot easier. But when I see hardware like this, it drives me absolutely insane. And it looks like they really rounded the edges like completely off of that. That is like there's almost nothing left. Like that looks to be a metric screw, and someone used a standard and just like rubbed it all around and kind of slowly deteriorated the side of the screws, which means it's probably a cheaper metal they're using too. But that's why that happened. Okay. But you want to know how to fix it. Now, you tried basically everything under the sun, including you tried gluing another screw to it, which I think is the most MacGyver thing I've ever heard, and I love it. Now, do you have a pair of vice grips?
Okay, so I don't think vice grips. What I did try, it was the locking needle nose pliers.
Yeah.
Because you see the space that I'm working with is super, super tiny.
So small. It's so small. There's like, it's right up against the edge, and it makes it even harder. Vice grips can come in all shapes and sizes. Vice grips are technically, it's a brand, but it has just like become, synonymous with a very specific tool. But I think we're talking about the same thing. But we're going to show on here what I'm talking about on the screen, and the audience will know, but you won't know. But what we're talking about is like a needle nose pliers that's a little bit flatter, that does have a strong grip. They got to really, especially the good ones, got real strong grips to them. And it would be like you would grab it and then turn it like a 1/4 inch, unlock it. Grab it, turn it a 1/4 inch, and unlock it. It would be a very tedious thing. It is a possibility, but it would be very tedious. There is another option, and that is an extraction bit. Have you ever used or heard of an extraction bit?
I feel like I've heard of an extraction bit in my research on trying to remove this little stubborn piece of metal. And I think that in my research, I had a hard time finding something that was small enough to go onto this, again, tiny piece of metal.
I think that it is possible. Like I have an extraction bit set that would probably work with this. They're on Amazon, about $30 to $40. But essentially, what you want to do before you use it, and the hardest part about using these things, is making sure that you start in the center. If you start a little bit off center when you're using an extraction bit, you're going to make the hole and you're going to probably break the top of the screw off. And that's why it's like the last thing I always try. Extraction bits are kind of risky. But in this case, you're kind of like shit out of luck, right? Like you might as well try something if you want
Yes.
to, right? And it doesn't get a whole lot easier. There's another route that you could do, but again, you have such a tight space, is you could cut a notch with a Dremel or another tool
Mm.
in the middle of it and use it like a flathead, and then put a flathead in there and twist it out that way. But there's a few disclaimers in this one. It also has to be in the center, and making it very in the center
Mm.
is going to prevent it from snapping the top off, which has happened. And you got to wait for it to cool, because when you use a Dremel, the whole metal is going to heat up. It's going to be way easier to break. And then when you apply the flathead, you're going to it's going to be gone. It's going to disintegrate the top. But if you get like a little chisel point or something with a really fine point to it, and you put it right in the middle of it, and then you take a hammer and you whack it, that's going to indent the screw in the middle, and that will be a good starting point to put the extraction bit in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the Dremel was probably going to be my next course of
Oh,
attack.
you were thinking it.
I'm
Yeah.
okay being patient with this because, yeah, it's been like a psychological journey as well as a Google search. So each step of this and each thing that I try, like, you have to be like in a good mental state and like well hydrated and well fed
Yeah.
before trying anything like this.
How many
So,
weeks has this been? How long has this been right now?
So I'm probably in my 4th week.
Oh.
And I had really high hopes. Yeah, my wife was gone on vacation and I was having really high hopes of being able to like have her come back and me being like, yes, I did the thing that should be, in my opinion, just so very easy. But even like, working up the bravery to go into a hardware store to be like, hey,
Yeah.
I do know what I'm talking about. I might not have the same language that you're going to use, but I still need help. And it's just, frustrating that this small piece of metal can just stand in my way. I did replace all of the other screws that I could get out, or the bolts that I could get out. I replaced them with screw head tops instead because that just made so much more sense to me. So I figured I would at least start the process right for the next time.
Yeah, I mean, do what's best for you, I think it does make sense in this instance to use like you use like a cross bit of some kind instead of using like a hex head. But I think that you're right. A lot of times you'll talk to the professionals at the hardware store and they will talk you into a product or something that you really don't think will work, and it doesn't work. And then you end up spending more money than it would have been if you would have just called for help the first time. So the last thing I will say, and the one I know you don't want to hear, but it is okay to ask for help on this one. Like, it is okay, right? Spending money for something like I will say I've been called for less. Okay, I've been called for changing a light bulb. Okay, so and I never thought twice about it. Everyone has their own reasons. And there's no reason why anyone should feel bad about calling for help for any reason, right? Maybe they don't have the right ladder. Maybe they're scared of heights, or maybe it's just they don't want to deal with electricity. Even though it's completely safe to undo a light bulb, right? But that's okay. So what I would suggest here is that if you get to a point where you're really worried that you're going to make it hard for yourself, I just want to remind you, it is more expensive for them to have to remove the screw if the head comes off on accident than it is to have them come right now and try to get it out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
I mean, it's just also hard to like admit defeat after working with this project for as long as I did.
know you can do this. I absolutely believe in you, but I do want to say that a lot of this is like very precision work too, you know, like if the vice grips thing doesn't work, right, then we're off to the extraction bit, and if that doesn't work, maybe the Dremel. But if you do the extraction bit hole too big, you really can't do the Dremel trick, you know, and that's where it gets hard, you know, and trying to cut that straight and not on an angle when you do the Dremel is also going to be hard because of the angle it's at. It's at just a stupid angle. It's a very hard thing to get if you can't use your socket.
Yeah, I think the thing that has worked best for these particular bolts so far was just the cursing. That at least made me feel better, was the cursing.
I mean, if we want to get country with it, there's probably other ways that you could do this. Now, here's the country girl in me, okay? If you have a socket that kind of fits on there, right? And you don't care about that socket anymore, and you don't care about that screw anymore, what you could do, someone is gonna hate this fucking answer. What you could do is you could put something that hardens in it over time, like resin. And you could put resin in the socket, put it onto the screw, let it harden, let it bond, let it become one with it, let it have hopes and dreams, and then tear that fucker out. That's what I would do. That's what I think if I was that desperate, if I was like, I can fucking do this, I think that would be what I would do. I think also there might be another product out there like resin that would be cheaper, affordable, and more effective. I wouldn't use cement, but I think that might be a route too. I'm not positive that would work because the way it's rounded off, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's broken, and all you're gonna do is it's gonna just confirm it's still broken, or you're gonna fix the problem. So, you know, and there is no victory if you don't try anything. You know what I mean? You gotta try something. How do you feel, my friend?
I feel pretty good. I feel like I have some next steps, and you're right. Like the failure of not trying anything. Like I've at least already tried, and so I already feel like I've done something.
Yeah. You did already. You're doing so good. So many people just would give up right away as soon as a mouse runs into their oven. You know what I mean? And are you confident with getting the mouse out and doing all that stuff and doing preventative stuff to make sure they don't get back in, by the way?
Oh yeah. We have so many traps set up now, and we've used some spray foam filler where there were gaps between the walls. So I feel like on that front, like we are full force and seeing a lot of progress, but this is like their last holdout, and just extraordinarily frustrating at this part.
Yeah. They're very just like, please. I will say this: your cats are hilarious. Your cats made me laugh so hard. They look like they checked out for the day, and by day I mean the rest of their life. They're done. They're not going to care about anything. The one that's in the front looks like he had the worst day, and it never stopped. What are your cats' names?
Frank and Chicken. So Frank is the blue-eyed ragdoll, and Chicken is our feral stray.
You know, I will say a lot about my audience. I will say so much about my audience. But one thing I will never be able to get over is how good my audience is at naming their pets. So good. Frank and Chicken? Which one is Chicken? Which one is Chicken?
So Chicken is the short-haired tabby.
Oh, yeah, he looks like a chicken. He looks like a chicken. I said he looked like he was a cat that had orange cat energy but wasn't orange.
Yeah, no, that tracks, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Mercury strikes again. Amy, it has been a wonderful time talking to you. I hope that this goes well. And if it goes well, please call me back and let me know. If it doesn't, never call me again.
You'll at least get some communication either way how it goes, and the most I can do
I
is
would
try.
love
So
it.
thank you so much.
Problem. You take care, okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
But during that call, miraculously, Fay Ludes has returned to us.
Oh my God. I downloaded the phone app. I was like, I'm giving this one last try. I'm just going to download the phone app because my fucking computer has decided not today.
You know what? Drag performers will never stop. The show has to go on.
You know that I fought with this makeup today. Y'all, I'm not used to Oklahoma weather. I mean, the worst thing about touring is that I don't know the climate and how my body's going to react to it. Y'all, I'm telling you, nose streaming, eyes streaming. I could not keep this shit on my face in Oklahoma today. So, now that allergy kicked in, baby, I'm back. I took a pill.
You've alluded to it a couple of times, Faye, but what is it like right now living in a home that moves?
Living in a home that moves. So I've been a nomad off and on. I bought my RV about 4 years ago. I did almost a year-long tour, but I had a little tragedy strike and I just had to get off the road and clear my head. I just hit 1 year on the road. I have been touring again now for a year, all over North America, including getting detained in Canada. But living on the road generally, it's fun, but I think it's so much more work than people realize. Because not only for me as an entertainer, I'm in a different city. I try to stay about 10 days somewhere. I used to go to a new city every weekend. At this age, I can't do it. But, you also need to perform enough that you're making, I get 10 miles to the gallon. So we can't be messing around, driving places for one show or whatever. I like being a nomad.
Yeah.
I recently found out there's a whole nomad culture. I went to a nomad event called Van Aid where there was mutual aid, where everyone helped each other fix broken things on their rigs, and met a lot of fantastic people there. I have nomads on the road. I'm staying right now at a nomad's house who is trying to sell her home. She was a nomad for 3 years, and she's letting me park in her driveway for a few days because I have a leak in my roof that has to get fixed before I go to the next spot. So it's a very interesting, time-consuming, but fun thing. I mean, I've performed in 22 states now, and I get to basically drive around and meet queer people I care about and see friends that that I haven't seen in years. So with all of the exhaustion comes a lot of privilege and fun and connection with queer people everywhere. And I don't know, I have a very motherly instinct. I don't want to be a mother, but I just have that kind of tough love, but also warm kind of thing. So I naturally gravitate to meeting other queer people, meeting other neurodivergent people, and just, connecting with them. And I make some lifetime friends on the road, and I get to have adventures and go places I never even expected. I recently posted a picture of me in high school with my little shaved head. I actually had bangs similar to this, but the back was shaved, and they had little bleachy bangs. And I was like, I'm pretty sure she would be proud of me. Like, all I ever wanted to do was perform and be seen. And here I am at 43, living my dream, being an entertainer that has performed in 4 countries and 22 states. And I just, it's everything I could ever hope for.
Hard work.
Yeah, I mean, you figure I drive it, I book it, I perform it, I'm doing every single part of it. And, with mental health and things like that, things can fall by the wayside. These last couple days have really been trying to book out through June because I started the tour with a plan, but I just didn't know when it was going to end. I still don't know when it's going to end. So, I just had to kind of get ahead of myself and be like, all right, babes, you can't be asking people for shows 3 weeks before you get there. But I've had, what people don't realize about nomad life is sometimes you have to reroute. I had this leak in my roof and I went to the event to fix it. But before that, I was supposed to be in a different region of the country and had to reroute to get out of rainy areas because, you know, a leak can give you black mold and damage your RV forever. So there are times where, you know, the tour just gets off track or things take longer than you expect. You have to be very flexible about things. And that is something I've struggled with my whole life, but it has really made me a much more patient person. And for that, I am grateful. One final thing. I don't know if you know this, but I have been looking for a wife. I don't know where she is. I'm a little confused. I'm 43 now. Where is she? So if you're out here and watching,
well, you know,
and you're a lesbian over 30, a lesbian over 30, I like my girls girly. I'm a butch out of this, so I like my girls girly. If you're a punk rocker, if you're a vintage girly, if you're any of those things, ooh, call me.
Everybody, thank you so much for coming to this episode of Maintenance is a Drag with Fay Ludes. It has been a blast talking to you, my friend. It has been such a wonderful time catching up. But I want to make sure that all my fans know where to find you. So where are you on the internet?
Oh, baby, I'm everywhere on the internet. I would say my biggest platform is probably Instagram. Everything you can find me at Fay Ludes, FayLudes.
I want to say, just a reminder for those who are watching this, that on March 29th, 30th, and 31st, we are raising $4 million for trans people, by trans people. Me and the wonderful Alluring Skull are going to team up and do a 30-hour live stream over a course of 3 days, ending on Trans Day of Visibility. And all of this is for gender-affirming care. It's going to be $4 million. That's going to help 22,000 trans people access gender-affirming care through the nonprofit organization Point of Pride. These people wouldn't be able to access it otherwise if it wasn't for the money and the fun that we are putting together. So if you're able to help, please help. If you're able to watch, please watch. If you're able to share, share. We need all the help that we can possibly get. So thank you for listening to me. And as always, my friends, remember, you're worth the time it takes to learn a new skill. Bye-bye!
The time it takes to be you. She'll teach you how to fix your house, how to fix it by yourself. The trans hand